Let's continue our work with solving polynomial equations using factoring by doing a couple of word problems. Now these word problems may look a little bit familiar because we've done some work with word problems in a previous chapter, but this time around our equations are going to be quadratic equations, whereas in our previous work our equations were linear equations. So take a look at our first example, which says that the product of two consecutive page numbers is 156. Find the page numbers. You know that I'm going to ask you to think about what's been given here. First of all, what are we asked to find? We're asked to find the page numbers, and there are two of them. And what do we know about the two page numbers? They're consecutive. So that means they're one right after the other. So we're going to define our variable first. Let's let P be one page number, maybe the small one. And then the next page, the page that would be consecutive to P would be one page away, wouldn't it? So we know that we would then define that as P plus 1. So that's the second page number. Okay, so again, when you have consecutive numbers, they are 1 unit apart. So we let our variable represent the smaller number, then the next consecutive number will be variable plus 1. So P and P plus 1 are our two variables. And what do we know? We need an equation, and we know that the product is 156. So that means we're going to take our two variables, our pages, P, and multiply it times P plus 1, because that's our product, and we're going to set that equal to 156. Okay, so there's our equation. So now we have to solve for P, and that means that we need to get this equation in standard form. We need a 0 on one side, so definitely some distributing is going to happen first. So we get P squared plus P equals 156. And now we need a 0 on one side, so we're going to subtract that 156. So now we need to find factors of negative 156. So two numbers that multiply to 156 and add up to a 1, right? Because there's an invisible 1 right there. I don't know about you, but I can't see that right off the bat. So I'm going to make a list of factors for 156, kind of using my calculator to help me, right? And so I'm going to make a table here. Okay, so here's my list of factors of 156, and what I did was that I just used my calculator and divided the numbers on the left-hand side until I got the two numbers that worked, which were 12 and 13. So that means that we're going to factor this as P plus 13, because our sum is a positive 1, P minus 12. So that's going to that means we get two numbers that have a product of a negative 156, but they add up to a positive 1. And we set those to 0 with our 0 product property. Okay, and then we're going to get, here we get P equals negative 13. Now tell me what you think about that number. Well, now remember, these are page numbers, so I don't know about you, but I haven't seen too many books with negative pages. Okay, so negative pages, that's a no. So we cannot use this guy. Okay, but over here we get P equals 12. So P, this is my one page number, isn't it? And then the next page number, because they want us to find both, is 13. Next page. So conclusion statement. My conclusion statement says the page numbers are 12 and 13. Okay, we're ready for our next word problem. This word problem says the product of two consecutive even whole numbers is 360. Find the two integers, or the two whole numbers. Okay, that I made a deal about that is whole numbers are numbers that start with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're the counting numbers, and you add 0. Integers would have negatives involved. Okay, so I'm going to assume that they really want us to find the whole numbers and not the integers here. All right, so that's what we're going to go for. And these two numbers are consecutive, but they're consecutive even. So let's let x be the smaller number. And then because we're talking about even numbers are 2 units apart from each other on the number line, as you know. So the next even number would be x plus 2. So that will be our larger number. And for our equation, we're once again looking at product, which means we're going to multiply those two. So x times x plus 2, and that has to be 360. So this is similar to the last problem, right? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and distribute, and we get x squared plus 2x, and let's subtract 360 equals 0. And once again, we're going to have to look for two numbers that multiply to a negative 360, and they have to add up to a positive 2. So I'm going to make a list again till we can find those. Okay, so here are my list of factors of 360, and we need 18 and 20. Okay, again, I used my calculator. I just divided the numbers on the left column and got the numbers on the right till I found two that worked. And so I'm going to factor this as x plus 20 and then x minus 18 equal to 0. And we're going to set these each to 0 and solve for x, as you know. And over here, I'm going to get again the negative whole numbers. You see that? Negative 20. And this is why it was important for me to decide whether I was looking for whole numbers or integers. And I'm going to go for the whole number, so not a whole number because it's negative. But then over here, I get x equals 18. And so this we just found the smaller number, right? Which is 18. So then the larger number is 20. So the two whole numbers whose product is 360, two consecutive whole numbers whose product is 360 are 18 and 20. That would be our conclusion statement. And let's do one more. And in this particular problem, it says that a rectangular garden is 10 feet longer than it is wide, and its area is 875 square feet. What are its dimensions? Which, as you know, mean that we're looking for a length and a width. And so here's my rectangle garden. I need one variable, and I do not know anything about the width. So let's let W be the width. Then the length will be 10 feet longer, so that will be W plus 10. And the area we know is found by length times width. Length times width. So our length is W plus 10. Our width is W. Let's put that in front. And that has to equal the 875 square feet. So we're going to once again distribute the W's here. W squared plus 10W. And subtract the 875 and set that to 0. And you know what's coming, right? A table. We need a table again. 875, these numbers are getting big. Okay, so let's go find these two factors. Okay, so I found them, 25 and 35. Those will multiply to a negative 875 and add up to a positive 10 if I use the right sign. So it's W plus 35 and then W minus 25 for our factored form, and we're going to set these to 0 and solve for W. And of course, once again, we know that we are not going to be talking about negative widths, no negative widths, so we're going to have to not use that one. But then over here we get it, W equals 25. So our rectangular garden has a length of 35 feet and a width of 25 feet. So let me write that conclusion statement. And there's our conclusion statement that the garden has a width of 25 feet and a length of 35 feet. And it's easy to check to see if those two, well, we know that those two multiply to 875. So that's our answer.